Hello everyone and welcome back to more Umineko When They Cry. So, in the last video, everybody was making demands of Kraus, believing that he had either embezzled his father's money, or that he had found 10 tons of gold, which is a legend that surrounds Kinzo himself. And they're all pretty mad about it and they all want to share, so they were all trying to make demands of him. And he's being a bit sneaky, but I don't really know why. And he's also making this horrible, horrible face, which I really wish he wouldn't, but I can't really do anything about it. Anyway, let's get on with the story. Kraus stared at each of his siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow in avoiding it. So he was caught by Kraus's gaze.
Hideyoshi 兄さん、あなたの会社は非常に好調子だそうじゃないですか。トントン拍子で上場を果たし、業績も株価も右肩上がり。実にお羨ましいことです。
うちの人の話は関係ないでしょ。
だが、株主たちに対する還元を怠ったのが悪かった。そして上場した時に足回りを固めきらなかったのもまずかった。気づいた時にはたちの悪い連中に自社株をだいぶ買い集められていたらしいじゃないですか。
なんでそんな話知っとるんや。
秀吉さんと同じですよ。私に融資する人間などいないと裏を取れる程度に、私も秀吉さんの裏を取れるのです。そんな不思議があることはないじゃないですか。
Kraus grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was rapidly turning pale. Hideyoshi's company was a restaurant chain management company that he'd started from nothing. Thanks to Hideyoshi's management efforts, the company had achieved success repeatedly, expanding its range, and a petition to make it a stock-listed company had recently succeeded. The greatest advantage of being in the stockholding system is that you can sell stock certificates and gain a large amount of financing. That amount tends to be far greater than a business's normal profits. So this is an extremely effective way to gather massive funds to expand a business even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders gain certain rights. They're given rights that allow them to observe and guide the company they've invested in, leading to profits even greater than their original investments. This right is guaranteed to the stockholders, and they sometimes use it to dismiss ineffectual management. Their right allows them to keep an eye on management and prevent the money they've invested in the company from going to waste. However, if they use it forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. After all, dismissing management and nominating new management are powers held by the general body of all shareholders. That power is determined by the majority decision of the stockholders. And people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. In other words, if some person or group holds a majority of the stock, they can freely chase out the old management and make the president anyone they'd like. If they want, it's also possible for them to make themselves president. Most companies take various defensive measures to stop malicious people from buying up their stock and threatening their position, like ensuring that lots of stock is bought by those close to them, such as company employees. However, Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock-listed, and he hadn't had time to strengthen those defensive measures. Or maybe Hideyoshi was so engrossed in the management of his company that he couldn't properly understand the dangers of being stock-listed. It's hard to say whether he should be viewed as a kind-hearted manager immersed in the work of management, or a foolish manager who had his feet swept out from under him. In other words, there existed some people who wouldn't let him get away with that naivety unscathed. They began repeatedly buying up stock in Hideyoshi's company, rapidly gaining such strength that they couldn't be ignored. Then they sent anonymous documents to the shareholders in an attempt to gain control of the majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders. Let us force the current management to retire cut the current wasted investments, and let this company be born again as one that gives more back to the stockholders. It's very difficult to make the actual state of company's management known. The fruits of Hideyoshi's sleepless nights and constant concern for his company were cruelly distorted, and he lost the trust of his stockholders. Thanks to these efforts, this group had almost collected a majority of the company's stock. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed and started to buy back the stock, but the stockholders realised that the company was undergoing an acquisition manoeuvre, and each demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continually tortured Hideyoshi, who had no leeway in the negotiation of the price. One of the certainties of capitalism is that the price will rise when two parties vie for the same thing. And one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. So in the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stocks wins. Put another way, whoever has the most money wins. Oh, so Hideyoshi's in a pretty poor financial situation himself. Unless Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money at this critical time, he could easily lose all he had built so far. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance, since no one knew when he would die.
ルドルフの方も最近は大変だそうじゃないかね。
Oh, so they're all going to be in a bad financial situation, and they are all going to need this money immediately, and that's why they're all trying to blackmail him. I see.
海外は怖いとよく言うが、本当にそうらしいな。アメリカの裁判は極めて感情的に決まる。彼らは外国人に寛大な判決など出しはしない。先方と和解した方が結局は安上がりになると、弁護士に忠告を受けたんじゃないのかね。
何の話？
まあ仕事上のトラブルさ。大したことじゃない。
I really like that sprite on Kirie. That's a really nice sprite. It's just very... she looks very beautiful there.
金で切りのつく話さ。
Kirie immediately guessed the meaning behind the subtle expression on Rudolph's face. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge, and had been worrying over it alone.
その通りさ。世の中なんだって金で蹴りがつく。失った兄弟の絆だって買い戻せるようにな。アメリカは権利侵害などにはうるさい国だ。だが金さえあれば何でも和解できる。資本主義万歳だよ。もっとも和解金は数百万ドルにも及びそうだとの噂もあるがね。
Rudolph had been building a large amount of wealth with a certain type of niche industry. However, a niche is a niche. It definitely wasn't a business exposed to the light of day. An American corporate giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. For various reasons, it was thought that victory for Rudolph in this trial would be extremely unlikely, and he was being forced into an all-out surrender. But even so, there was a way for this to be resolved with money. If he could just pay that money, it might still be painful, but he'd be able to pick himself back up. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now.
ローザは清く正しい妹だ。危険なマネーゲームなどには手を出さない。だが、お人よしな性分が災いしたんじゃないかね。連帯保証人は気安く引き受けるものではないと思うがね。
それはクラウス兄さんとは関係ない。
Wow, I haven't seen Rosa get that angry yet. Rosa uncharacteristically laid bare her emotions and yelled. After all, no one was supposed to know that. As Kraus watched, he let slip a muffled laugh. Without exception, every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed. After all, the person the younger siblings were threatening was the only one who had no urgent need for a large sum of money. The other three, however, wanted a lot of money quickly, no matter the cost. In other words, the longer it took to establish this deal, the better position Kraus would be in. Kraus was extremely sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden his knowledge until the very end, striking back only after analysing their attitudes.
私もできることなら可愛い弟や妹たちの危機に金を工面してやりたいと思っているよ。だが残念なことに持ち合わせがなくてね。7億半もの大金が工面できるスポンサーに心当たりがあるなら先にそちらを当たってもらいたいのだよ。
Kraus's elated words were so obviously detached from what he actually felt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. If they could think of a sponsor that convenient, they would have kept up the charade. They should all get into black magic and summon the Golden Witch Beatrice. Then they'd all be set, pretty much. They had entered this huge battle specifically because they had exhausted all other options.
もしお前たちがどうしてもこの兄を頼りたいというなら私の口利きでスポンサーを探してやってもよいのだがね。おっと、私にはそんな者はいないと言っていたか。それではどうにもならんね。
Kraus's low, gloating laugh began to fill the parlour. The younger siblings, who had been driving the oldest brother into a corner until a moment ago, could do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth.
冗談じゃないわ。兄さんに借りなんか作れるもんですか。冗談じゃない。冗談じゃない。クラウス兄さんを頼ったらどう助けてくれるの？
言ったではないか。私にできるのは他のスポンサーを探すだけだよ。もちろん利息を融通してもらえるようには最大限交渉するがね。
ちくしょう。足元見やがって。
あなた。
I mean, he says that, but weren't they trying to take advantage of him? So it's really their own faults.
落ち着いて。
落ち着いてるぜ。俺は極めて冷静だぜ。クソったりが。
Kirie grabbed her husband's hand, but that action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Kraus laughed as though watching something highly amusing.
こんな時、本当に親父殿の隠し黄金が見つかればいいんだがね。そうすればすぐに25億ずつをこの場で切り分けてやれるのだが、残念残念残念至極。非常に極めて実にどうしようもなく残念だ。今宵は兄弟みんなで酒を酌み交わしながら、親父だベアトリーチェの碑文の謎をみんなで解き明かしてみようじゃないかね。仲良し兄弟が4人揃えばきっと解けない謎はないはずさ。
I wonder if they're actually going to start a scavenger hunt for the gold. That would be a pretty fun VN.
Hmm. 面白いことをする。それでその突きつけた条件というのは何か。
はい。クラウス様は黄金の発見を問わずに、その分け前として エヴァ様、ルドルフ様、ローザ様に計75億円を支払うこと。ただしその1割を3月までに支払うこと。
クラウスの間抜けめ、弟たちに足をさらわれるとはな。実に愉快ではないか。
Oh, you haven't heard the last of it, Kinzo. It's all getting way more interesting.
しかし、詰めが甘いようだな。
はい。
I thought he only trusted Goda and maybe Nanjo, so why is Canon able to interact with him?
クラウス様はそれをエヴァ様以下お三人が緊急に大金を用立てする必要があるためと看破されました。
その程度のことは看破できるのか。中途半端に無能な男め。今はどうしている？
話は一度中断されました。今はベアトリーチェ様の碑文の話をされています。
私の黄金がどこに隠されているのか、その謎を解こうとか。
はい。
Kinzo set down his spectacles and snorted.
奇跡の成就が先か。愚か者どもが黄金を暴くのが先か。
Okay, what miracle is that then?
実に見ものではないか。愚か者どもが我が謎を解き明かしたなら、その時は私のすべての敗北だ。
Is this a term that he made with the witch or something?
我が屍を骨のひとかけらまでしゃぶり尽くすがいい。愚か者どもの貪欲さが偉大なる魔法に奇跡を宿らせるのだ。だがもし奇跡の成就が先だったならベアトリーチェは再びよみがえる。私が半生をかけて追い求めたあの美少がよみがえるのだ。
Okay, so it seems Kinzo has some other plans besides the discussion of this inheritance.
おお、ベアトリーチェ。
Oh, here we go again, Kinzo. Is this really what you're going to be like the whole game?
奇跡を落とす聖なる夜がやってくるぞ。悪魔たちとのゲームが始まるぞ。私はきっと打ち勝つ。絶対に生き残る。他の奴らの命はくれてやる。
Ooh, what's this then?
富も名誉も財産も黄金も何もいらぬ。ただお前の微笑みがもう一度見たいだけなのだ。
He'll let her have the lives of all those others. Intriguing. Very interesting thing to say, Kinzo. Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Canon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo motioned for him to stop.
なぜ私が黄金の隠し場所をわざわざ人目に触れるように晒したかわかるか。
いえ。
魔法の力はリスクで決まるからだ。ベアトリーチェの黄金を暴こうとする人間が多ければ多いほど、その危険が高まれば高まるほどに、それでもなお成就できたとき、魔法の力は偉大なる奇跡を起こせるのだ。魔法とはつまりゲームなのだよ。優れている者が勝者になるのではない。勝者には魔法が与えられ優れるのだ。わかるか？生命の奇跡が数億分の1という神々しい確率に勝利するからこそ与えられるようにな。 お前には少し難しいか。
申し訳ございません。
やい、つまりはこういうことだ。ベアトリーチェの碑文の謎を解いた者には私が築き上げてきた全てを与えよう。
I'm really interested to see the rest of this epitaph because they didn't even read the whole thing when they were looking at the portrait earlier. I just want to know what's going on.
富、名誉、黄金、そして後宮家の家督、私が築き上げてきた全てだ。その謎に挑む資格があるのは何も私の息子たちだけとは限らぬ。たとえお前であっても、その謎を解けたなら全てを得る資格があるのだ。
Oh, that's interesting. So even the servants can try and go after the gold.
はい。ですが、僕にはあのような難しい謎は分かりかねます。
無論だ。難解に作った。だがお前も挑め。それが我が魔法の奇跡を呼ぶ糧となる。誰もが挑み、誰にも至れなかったらその時はその時。だが奇跡が集い、魔法の力が生まれたならその時こそベアトリーチェがよみがえるのだ。だからお前も挑め。誰もが挑め。そして我が魔法に力を捧げるのだ。わかるな。
はい。努力します。
For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and clutching at his head. Canon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo eventually realized this.
もうよい、下がれ。酒棚に菓子の袋があろう。ダチンに持っていくがよい。
I don't know, he looks kind of old for sweets, but maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Maybe he is quite young.
結構です。僕は家具ですから。
It's like his catchphrase.
家具は菓子など食わぬか。道理だが。ならばもう下がれ。
はい。失礼いたします。
Canon bowed and left the study. As the door closed, a heavy locking noise sounded out. But it was not the sound of Canon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to seal himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. He was already unable to trust anyone excepting, not the children who shared his blood, but those servants who called themselves furniture.
Nanjo様、いかがなさいましたか。
ああ、源氏様。いや、居場所がなくなりましてな。
With a bitter laugh, Nanjo turned to face the door to the parlour. That look was apparently enough to tell Genji what Nanjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family's situation. It must have made him want to frown, knowing that right now in the lounge, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. But it would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression.
しかし、私には分かりませんが、どうして金蔵さんはこんな挑発的なものを書かれたのでしょう。
Nanjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait, at the plate with the epitaph.
私には 親方様のお考えは分かりかねます。深いお考えがあってのこととお察しします。
金蔵さんのチェスは昔から随分と遠大な読みで布石を打たれるものでした。いや、時には理解できない一手さえ。私ごとき凡庸では何を目論まれているのか皆目見当もつきませんが、
私はこれを親方様の何かの遺言状ではないかと考えています。それを理解できた者に財産や家督をお譲りになられようということなのでしょう。
つまり私のようなよそ者に解かれてしまう前に、兄弟4人で協力し合って謎を解け、金蔵さんは息子さんたちのことを口悪く罵ってはいますが、なんとか兄弟が仲を取り戻してほしいと願われているのかもしれません。
I 100% doubt that that is what he wants. It certainly would be heartwarming if, as Nanjo had suggested, this epitaph had been made to repair the siblings' relationship. However, both Nanjo and Genji knew that nothing could be more impossible than this. They'd known Kinzo longer than anyone, and Kinzo trusted them more than his own relatives. But even they could not guess at his true motives.
親方様は一族のものでなくとも謎に挑む資格があると常々おっしゃっています。南條先生はいかがですか。
いやいや、この老いぼれには少々難解が過ぎますな。実は以前この碑文を手帳に記しましてな、夜な夜な寝る前に挑んでみたのですが実に難しい。お迎えが来るまでの間、ゆっくり楽しむことができそうです。
I just want to know what the epitaph says, please.
源氏さんこそいかがですか。
私めは親方様にお仕えする家具に過ぎません。黄金も財産も私には不要なもの。
やれやれ、本当に謙虚だからこそ金蔵さんもあなたには心を許されるのでしょう。
ならば光栄なことです。
As Nanjo lightly laughed in response, he once again looked at the epitaph.
懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川、黄金鏡を目指す者よ、これを下りて鍵を探す。
The epitaph on the portrait called My Beloved Witch Beatrice goes as follow. Yes, I can finally read it! Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the 4th twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the 5th twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th twilight, gouge the knee and kill. Knee? That doesn't really seem like a killing maneuver. On the 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. Similar again. On the 9th twilight, the witch shall revive and none shall be left alive. That all seems incredibly sinister. As if this is going to be like a murder mystery kind of dealio. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the Golden Land. One shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls. One shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost. One shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch Beatrice. Okay, well, that was definitely very interesting. I just really drew it out and I just really wanted to read the epitaph, guys. Okay, so this seems like it's going to be a good place to end the video. And what a kind of sinister note to end it on. If you guys have enjoyed, then don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more. And until next time, guys, goodbye.